I want to thank you all for joining us today to remember our dear friend Roger Oldroar. At this point, I'd like to thank ArenaNet for their devotion to their community in the memory of Oldroar's legacy, for the naming of our home Sanctum of Rall, to the epic telling of Rall's Oldroar legacy by the historian Gaiscioch. Their unwavering commitment to our community is unmatched. We thank ArenaNet for making this game everything Roger believed it would be. I must apologize. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this, and it's kind of hard for me to get through. So if I pause, I'm sorry. For those of you who did not know him, please allow me to tell you a little bit about the man who is known as Oldroar. I first met Oldroar when he was a member of the Council of Shenanigans, along with Prissy and Holy Moly. The three of them worked with the Gaiscioch very closely on the RVR front in Warhammer Online. One of the first things I noticed about Oldroar was his voice. He could calm a room full of panicking people with just a few words. He led with a calm manner and never raised his voice to anyone. He went out of his way at every chance to try to help people both in-game and out. He was mentor to many of us. Now, of all things Oldroar loved, RVR-style gameplay was his passion. With Warhammer Online killing itself slowly, he took a passion to looking for a new RVR-based home. That is where he found Guild Wars 2. He poured the last 2 years of his life into finding every tweet, every Facebook, every interview, every video, anything he could find, and then present it back to the Gaiscioch as a potential home for our family. Just the mentioning of Guild Wars 2 in chat would launch a tidal wave of information and excitement. I'm quite certain today that if Oldroar had a heaven, this would be it. Now, I personally could ramble on for hours about Oldroar, but I wanted to give others who knew him a chance to share their memories. First, I'd like to introduce you to Prissy, Roger's longest and most well-known friend. Go ahead, Prissy.
Good evening, everyone. When Fogg asked me to say a few words, or actually told me to talk as long as I wanted to, I thought, okay, that will be no big problem. That was before the man that I knew as Oldroar became a legend. All of a sudden we have a server. All of a sudden he's been tweeted and twixed and emailed and everything. So now instead of just talking, then I'm going, oh my God, how do I talk about a legend? And believe it or not, Elements last night told me exactly how I was going to talk about a legend. Above anything else, Roger was my friend. I never knew him actually never knew what his first name was. He was either Oldroar or Roar, and had been like that since he came with me from Shenanigans. I got kicked, and 5 minutes later, Ben was inviting Oldroar, and it was us together. We did RVR, or doing the Warhammer stuff. He would lead, and then I would lead. We became a good pair. We got Gabe, we got Fisterhorn, we got Vampire, and the group grew, and we were the group who went to Rift. I remember hearing Oldroar's voice, and then I remember other people reacting to it. And I think I got as much kick out of listening to people respond to his voice as he did. He never wanted to be a legend, and I think he's looking at us now going, are you guys nuts? I also think that Master had it right. Master Elements needs to go to school, and he would be the first one to tell him that's where you need to go. Another thing about Roger was his family came first, and I don't mean his Gaiscioch family, I mean his wife. He loved his wife very much. He loved the time that he spent with her, the dinners that they made. He loved the naps that they'd take of an afternoon. He taught me that family comes first. Lots and lots I could say, but I think the important part of this is we are on the Sanctum of Rall. We are the members of Gaiscioch. It is our responsibility and our duty to take Roger's legacy out there and show them what it means. It means understanding, patience, kindness to one another, taking the pugs and leading them to where they need to go. Browbeating, not with anger. Last night doing RVR or World v World, it reminded me of the first days of Warhammer. We were the underdogs. We were beaten right and left. We never stopped. We learned how to do hit, tactics. We learned how to zerg. We learned how to be sneaky. We're rebuilding the family again this way. Everybody has to remain patient. It is our job to take that legacy out into the battlefront. It's our legacy to take it out into the PvP areas. It is our job to be Oldroar. Each of us now has a little bit of Oldroar in us. The other thing I've remembered is Oldroar's family. I have done the eulogy for my mother and my father, and I thought Oldroar is family too. So in ending, I would like to do the poem that I did for my family, for my extended family, and my best friend, Roger. It's called I Am Free. Don't grieve for me, for now I am free. I am following the path God has laid, you see. I took his hand when I heard him call. I turned my back and I left it all. I could not stay another day to laugh, to love, to work or play. Task left undone must stay that way. I found that peace at the close of the day. If my parting has left a void, then fill it with remembered joys. A friendship shared, a laugh, a kiss. Oh yes, these things I too will miss. Be not burdened with times of sorrow. I wish you the sunshine of tomorrow. My life's been full. I've savored much. Good friends, good times, a loved one's touch.
Thank you,
Perhaps
Chrissy.
my time seemed all too brief. Don't lengthen it now with undue grief. Lift your hearts and peace to thee. God wanted me, now he set me free. Thank you.
Thank you, Prissy. Now I'd like to introduce you to one of Oldroar's favorite rednecks and warlords, Bloodburner. He fought along Oldroar quite a bit. Go ahead, Bloodburner, the floor is yours.
This is harder than I thought it was going to be, but I had something planned out to say, but now it just doesn't seem right to say it, so I'm just going to say what's on my mind. First thing I'm going to do is take you all back into history before Guild Wars, before Rift. We're going to go all the way back to Warhammer. See, I originally ran Destro side, on Destruction side, and I used to lead the war bands and the raids and everything else, and I used to win all the time. You can ask some of the old Destro guys, I'm sure there's a few of them here. And then the servers merged, and Gaiscioch came to Badlands. And I went about doing my normal thing, you know, trying to take keeps and push order out of everywhere. But I just kept coming up against this one group, Gaiscioch. Didn't know anything about them, not one little bit. All I knew is that they just kept pissing me off. They kept stopping me from taking keeps. They kept stopping me from going to the city. So one day I said, screw it. I rolled an order side character, and I wanted to figure out who these guys were. I spent one afternoon in Vent with Oldroar before anybody really knew who I was. It was the first appearance of the redneck character, honestly, and I heard heard Oldroar for the first time in Vent, and I seen his tactics. I seen the way he fought, the way he pulled everybody together. It didn't matter if order was getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. Oldroar would just keep everybody calm. He'd keep everybody under control, and the next thing you know, we would be running everybody out of wherever we wanted. We would push all the way to the city when we owned nothing when we started. And that in itself is one of the main reasons I joined Gaiscioch. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't know most of the people that I run with now. He was a great man. He was a great friend. He was a great leader. And he is a shining example of what we as members of Gaiscioch should be.
Thank you, Bloodburner.
Yeah, it's getting a little hard to talk over here. I think I'll pass the mic back.
No problem. No battlefield was ever complete without Oldroar's posse. Roger's go-to warlords included Bloodburner, Prissy, myself, and Vampire's Bane. Please allow me to introduce you to Vampire's Bane, who spent a lot of time working at Oldroar's right hand.
Hey guys, this is Vampire's Bane. some of you may not have known, in 2007 my own father died, and it left a big hole in my life for a very long time. I never really was looking for a father figure, and I never told Gore that he was a good replacement, and I never asked him, and he probably never would have acknowledged it either. Not because he wouldn't have wanted to, but he wouldn't have wanted the responsibility. But it was nice knowing that he was there. It was nice knowing that I could ask him the kind of questions I'd ask my own father. It was nice knowing that I could ask for his help when it was time to look for a job and going through hard times with either girlfriend or grad school. And I can say, or I can guess that, anybody, any guy ages 20 to 45 or 50 probably thought of him as a father figure in some respect, just because he filled that role so well. Now that's more of a serious story. What I remember most in the most recent past was let's start with Warhammer first. I never thought initially that he was that great of a player until one night when Korzak, me, and I think it was Helreich and Kracer were in a dungeon, and Oldroar was looking for advice on how to play his warrior. And Korzak walked him through all the steps, and oh my lord, the next month he completely flip-flopped from average player to a fantastic player. And his renown rank just skyrocketed. And the same thing happened in World of Tanks. He started a little bit earlier. I think Wildcard or Moradin started him on World of Tanks. But a month or two in, when I was first starting, we'd play in Tier 1 or Tier 2. And this guy, 64, 65 years old, after everybody was dead on our side, and the other side had 5 tanks left, he'd be still alive in his tiny little tank, shooting people, and it would be 5-on-1, and at some point he would win no matter what. It blew me away. I couldn't believe that this guy could have been my father in another universe, was kicking so much ass in video games. So those two main ideas for him is what I remember most as a father figure and an outstanding video game player that I never would have guessed would have been so.
Thank you, Vamp. The mark of a great leader is his ability to instill his name in the history books of his foes. The next speaker is Nutarian, who went head up against Oldroar in the Battle for Badlands in Warhammer Online. The two eventually became friends and shared many adventures together. Please welcome Nutarian.
Hey guys, I'm going to keep it pretty brief. I knew Oldroar first as an enemy. I learned very quickly to respect and fear him as such. Every time I saw his name opposite mine on the Battle for Badlands site, I got that mixture of excitement and terror and worry. I wish we'd been able to go against each other more often. His tactics were creative and effective, and perhaps the most frightening aspect of his leadership was that demeanor, his calm, confident tone of voice that just encouraged his group to listen and obey. His raids ran like a well-oiled machine. Through all the games and the guilds that I've moved through in the years since Battle for Badlands, every time I find myself in command of a raid and facing a seemingly unsurmountable odds, the first thing I think to myself is, what would Oldroar do? The gaming community has lost a great leader, one who everyone should strive to emulate, and he will be missed as a leader, as a teacher, and as an enemy.
Thank you, Nutarian. I have a few people that would like to speak that weren't scripted into it tonight. First is Morden, who ventured with him through Warhammer Online, Rift, and then later World of Tanks. Morden, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ben. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I first met Old back in Warhammer. I think I'd taken a short little time off and come back, and I see this guy leading raids that I didn't know who he was. I was like, man, who's this guy? He's all of a sudden in our guild, and he's leading raids, and which was cool. I always like to see that kind of stuff. And I saw him and watched him and saw what he could accomplish and saw his demeanor and just over the years that I've got to know him and was honored to be able to play with him, he's so embodied what Gaiscioch is about. I mean, if you knew Oldroar, then you know what Gaiscioch is about. And if you don't, read about him, because that's what Gaiscioch is about. It was just amazing to go from there and then Rift and play with Rift. And I mean, I've never seen a guy so selfless. It didn't matter what game he was in. He would put, if he was working on something for himself and you needed help, he would just give up the rest of the day, even the week if it took it, just to help you out. And that selflessness was just amazing and really stuck out. Just, from there to World of Tanks after Rift, had a lot of fun with Old there. He really took to that a lot better than I thought. I actually kind of felt bad because I felt like I was introducing him to crack or something because he was playing so much. And like Vampire had mentioned earlier, it was just a riot to watch this guy in this tiny little tank going up against these behemoths, huge tanks, and just half the time he couldn't even damage some of them, and he's still just charging on after him and just annoying him, and he survived. And we're looking at each other just going, what is this guy doing and how is he doing it? And I mean, it was just amazing. Unfortunately, I kind of stepped back for a short time, about a week, and when I came back, it was a few weeks before I'd stepped back. We were talking about exchanging numbers, and we had done that. And when I got back, no one had seen Old, and it had been at least a week or two, which was very highly unlikely with Old. I mean, Old was on almost every day, maybe every other day. So I placed a phone call to his home or residence and got a voicemail, so left a message. And about an hour later, I got a phone call, and I could see it was his number, and I got excited. I thought, oh, cool, this is, Roger, Old. I get to talk to him. And it was his wife, and she proceeded to tell me what happened. And my wife could tell something happened. I mean, I had to leave the room, and it was so hard. I mean, I feel very honored to be able to talk to his wife and his daughter, but sometimes it was hard. It was nice to talk to her and his wife, and she said that she loved to watch him play on the computer because the joy that every one of you that played with him touched him greatly, and she saw that, and she didn't mind because of what he got out of it. I mean, we all got so much from Old and what he gave us, but we gave it back to him. I mean, he loved everyone. He had so much fun. It was what he did. And it was just incredible to be able to hear her talk about that and how happy it made her to see how happy he was. It was a really good feeling to see and hear. I mean, it was hard, very hard. And then having to talk to his daughter, and I'd lost my father, so I knew what it was like. And you could just tell, I mean, obviously he was missed, but I mean, I think they got a little bit of the sense of the idea that it wasn't just people there, but people all throughout the world that knew him from online. It was just a huge loss to anything. I mean, gaming and just friendships and anything, because Old was that go-to guy for everyone. I mean, because of his age and his wisdom, he would give out advice. He would help you out in any way you could, if it was in the game, out of game, matters of life, matters of, relationships. And I mean, what a great man to look up to, of how he loved his family and his wife. He showed that love so much in the game. And I mean, it was just so self-evident, so just great to see. And it was just a wonderful role model. He was so selfless that he actually would look at what we're doing right now and kind of almost snicker and definitely not want us to do this, because that's how selfless the guy was. But I just gotta say, I miss the guy, and he definitely has left a hole in every one of our hearts. And I hope he's looking down somewhere and getting a kick out of some of this. But God bless him.
Thank you, Martin. The last person I have slated to talk is Connor, who came in towards the end of Roger's time with us. But he's definitely one of the people that have come to us that has probably picked up Oldroar's attitudes the best. So please please welcome Connor.
Hey, I think for a lot of people that maybe didn't know him or had heard stories about him or had heard about his accomplishments. It's a big thing for me, the lineage that I come from and the family that I live in, and the history that not only my immediate family but my entire ancestry is built on great stories. And stories are always passed down, and they're always elaborated more and more with each telling. And I think that that's fitting for what's happened here. Roger would never tell of his own legacy with any sort of grandeur. It would always be a very humble story. It would always be a story of just helping out, just lending a hand, just helping my brothers and sisters along. But the stories that I've heard from the mouths of people and the battlefields and whatnot have been grand, and it's inspired me as an elder inside of Gaiscioch. A lot of people may be minimalizing a lot of what Gaiscioch represents simply because it's unique. We're a beautiful family. We get along together for the most part, but just like any family, we bark at each other every now and then, but it's that sort of bond that's described in every word that makes up what Oldroar was, that makes Gaiscioch so great. If you've ever PvP'd with Ben before, you'll know that about an hour in, if we're struggling, you can hear it in his voice. But at the same time, as Ben has told me 100 times, that calming voice, that inner peace, has always come from Oldroar. He's always aspired to be that calm, that influential sort of person. And Ben is well on his way as well. And just like Prissy said, the attitudes of Oldroar is what makes him great. The person that he was to everyone else on the outside is what made him beautiful. And all the stories that make up his legacy it's what's going to make him live on. We've been given an amazing gift that we could never repay from a game developer that was so impressed by his legacy, that was so impressed by the outpouring of support from his friends and family, that they've not only named the server in his honor, but they've created an NPC in the game to tell you of his great legacy. They didn't know at the time, as me and Ben and a few others have discussed, but had Oldroar ever played a character, it would have been a Char. And the fact that the NPC telling his great story about the Tribune, Oldroar, it sent goosebumps running across my whole body. Because whether this game is around in 2 weeks or 2 years or 20 years from now, there's a small sense of immortality, and there's a greater sense of, for me personally, responsibility to make sure that Gaiscioch is the greatest thing that ever happened to this server. Loving your friends, showing unwavering care and attention to strangers has always been what we've been about as a family. It's always been about putting yourself last and putting everyone else first. We've had some bumps along the way. We all make mistakes, but at the end of the day, when we come together, we're still a family. We lost Roger. Oldroar's not here anymore, but that doesn't mean a damn thing. Just because he's not here physically doesn't mean anything to me. Every time Ben gives a charge, or Prissy starts explaining something, or Redneck's given a command, or Vampires leading another PvP event, you can hear blood roar resounding throughout the halls of what Gaiscioch is made up of. And the fact that we have people here today that don't know him doesn't really matter to me, because they'll come to know who Roger is and what he represented through our actions. It's our responsibility as family of Roger to continue that legacy, to live that out in our own hearts and our own attitudes, in game and out of game. Ben's explained to me how, sure, inside of the game it's inspired him to be a great leader, but even outside of the game, Ben's a great leader. And it's inspired other people to be that way outside of the platform of Guild Wars or Rift or whatever it is. Because here, more than anywhere else that I've ever been, I felt like if I stepped away from my keyboard and showed up at any one of these guys' doors, knocked on it and said, I need a hand, I need a couch, I need a drink, I'd be welcomed in with warm arms. So I just want to say, I never really got to know Roger the way that people have on a personal level, but on the same instance, I have, because I know each and every one of you that have had deep interactions with him. And so to that, I say salute to Roger. And as I've always said about Roger, may the road rise up to meet you. May the winds be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. The rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand.
Thank you, Connor. In closing, I have put together a small piece of audio that I'm going to use in a video that we'll be releasing on YouTube later next week, possibly the week after. I want to thank you all for coming out, and this will be what we close with. Roger Oldroar Rall. He was a leader, a mentor, a guardian, a husband, a father, a brother, a friend, and today he is a legend. He lived life with a giant heart, which he poured into all those around him. Today I propose that we do not mourn the loss of a friend and brother. Instead, I encourage us to celebrate his life and legacy. A man's legacy is not held with what he owned at the time of his death. Cars, boats, houses, all the money in the world instantly evaporates upon your exit from this life. None of that matters. Your legacy is held with the people you impact in your lifetime, the lives you save, the lives you change, and the lives you bring into this world. Roger has changed many of us. His legacy did not die when he left this world. He passed it on to us, trusting that we would pass it on to the generations to come. Roger asked nothing of us, yet he gave to us everything he had to offer. He left his heart in all of us so that we can in turn extend the same compassion onto others. Look around yourself at this moment. The people you see here today have all been improved by his existence. We are his legacy, and it is ours to protect and pass on. I salute Roger Oldroar Rall, not because he was a worthy warlord or an influential member of our family. I salute him for seeing a better man in me than I saw in myself, for making me a better man, a better father, a better husband, and a better leader. His existence made all of us better people. 6 months ago, we fought to have a server named in his honor, a monument to his unwavering passion for Guild Wars 2. Today, we have a server dedicated in his memory, and a legion of guardians to protect him. In your time here on Sanctum of Rall, I encourage you all to live as Roger did. Give more than you take. Help even when it isn't beneficial. Protect those you love, and make the best of memories along the way. Others have a name. We have a legend. This is Roger's legacy, and it is ours to protect.